What's up, everyone? Welcome back. In today's video, we'll be talking about the first Monday Night Football game of the NFL season, which was a game New York Jets fans had been clamoring to see since the acquisition of four-time MVP quarterback Aaron Rodgers back in April. This season, the NFL has been running a series of commercials that show a room of writers discussing this year's script for the NFL. Most people simply laugh at this concept as they take another swig of beer. However, for those of us with a thirst for deeper knowledge, this serves as a clue to what's really going on, that the NFL is, and always has been, a league scripted for our entertainment. Simply take a look at the very first touchdown of the 104th season scored by Amon-Ra St. Brown. The number 14 has Gematria of 104. And not only was the first touchdown scored by a man with 104 reduction gematria, but he even wears number 14. And that touchdown that he scored, he did so on the 14th play of the drive. All scripting for the 104th NFL season. Now, Aaron Rodgers' entire career has been a major part of this script, and as a resident of Wisconsin where he used to play, I've done more posts on his numerology than anyone else. So what is the script? Anyway, the script is a series of highly unlikely coincidences that regularly happen on a routine basis. These coincidences are also linked through the study of chronology, which is the study of time and date durations, and gematria, a very significant component of numerology that converts the letters of our language to a numerical value. And here's a perfect example. How about the coincidence that Brett Favre, who started for Green Bay for 15 seasons, left to play for the New York Jets? His successor, Aaron Rodgers, also started for Green Bay for 15 seasons and then also left for the Jets. In the language of gematria, Green Bay Packers has an ordinal value of 150. As zeros can be ignored in numerology, this represents the number 15. So this is a perfect example of how numerology comes together to create these scripts. However, there's so many bizarre coincidences that we need to talk about. This isn't even the first time that a New York Jets quarterback has torn his Achilles in week 1 of the season. Back in 1999, when Jets fans were similarly excited, Vinny Testaverde tore his Achilles on a non-contact play, resulting in him missing the entire season. Notice the date, just 1 day off. Rodgers' injury happened on September 11th. And think about how the Jets were the focus of the show Hard Knocks this year, to get Jets fans even more excited, even more looking forward to this year. Well, September 11th is the date in history in New York City where Jets smashed into the World Trade Center, leading to the complex's collapse. And notably, Rodgers did stand up after his injury, only to collapse several seconds later. In the very first NFL game after the 2001 terror attacks, played by the New England Patriots, remember the Patriot Act was passed after 9/11, Patriots quarterback Drew Bledsoe, who wears number 11, similar to the Twin Towers being destroyed on the 11th, was injured in a game against the New York Jets. This led to the entry of Tom Brady, who would go on to become the greatest of all time. So we'll see how this injury from Drew Bledsoe is also connected. Back on December 5th last year, I made a super stream that talked about how Aaron Rodgers is linked to Francis Xavier. And I did a whole video on this. Again, this was the same weekend that the Packers defeated the Bears to become the winningest team in NFL history. Well, in this game where Rodgers was hurt, the Jets ended up winning in overtime on a punt return by a player named Xavier Gipson. So we'll look at his numerology later on too. Now, in that video, I talked about the Packers winning at the Bears to become the winningest NFL franchise ever. And it just so happens that on this same weekend that Rodgers got hurt, the Green Bay Packers brought their new quarterback to Chicago to again beat the Chicago Bears. Now, Aaron Rodgers' career is heavily scripted alongside the Chicago Bears. Remember, in 2011, he won a game in Chicago to go to the Super Bowl. And then a couple years later, he came back from what was thought to be a season-ending injury to beat the Bears to win the division and make the playoffs. Now, this is part of the overarching Jesuit riddle that sits alongside Aaron Rodgers. Earlier, I mentioned Francis Xavier, reminding us that a player named Xavier Gipson won the game for the Jets. Well, Francis Xavier was a founding member of the Society of Jesus. Another one of the founding members was a man named Saint Peter Faber. Now, Faber has a couple of other alternate last names listed. One of them is Lefebvre, and the other one is Favre, F-A-V-R-E. Does that remind you of somebody? How about Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers' predecessor in Green Bay? Well, in 2019, the Packers hired a coach named Matt LaFleur, whose last name is very similar to Lefebvre from Peter Faber. In 2004, a film called Dodgeball came out, and the main character of this movie was called Peter LaFleur. So I've done a number of posts and videos talking about how Dodgeball is connected to the Green Bay Packers. A great example of this is this post I made in December of 2022, talking about how the death of Rip Torn, who played the coach in Dodgeball, is connected to Green Bay. And now we have Aaron Rodgers ripping and tearing his Achilles tendon. Back in the year 2013, the same year that Peter Faber was canonized by Pope Francis, this was on December 17th of 2013, just less than 2 weeks before Rodgers came back to beat the Bears in the last game of the season. That year, the Packers actually played dodgeball during their summer practice. Brett Favre even made his first career start on the Jesuit Order anniversary, September 27th. In the language of Gematria, using capital letters, the name Rip Torn has Gematria of 218. Not only did Aaron Rodgers rip and tear his Achilles 218 days after Rip Torn's birthday, but it was also exactly 218 weeks after Rip Torn died. Again, Rip dying the same year that Matt LaFleur was hired. 218, a number of death, as we see in standard Gematria. Last year, I also did a video on the connection of Aaron Rodgers to Bray Wyatt. And it just so happens that Bray Wyatt passed away a few weeks ago on Kobe Bryant Day. We'll talk a little bit about Kobe later on. But the reason they're synced together is because Bray Wyatt returned to WWE just one day before Aaron Rodgers played the first ever Packer game in London. And that happened on John Lennon's 82nd birthday, just like John Winston Lennon in Gematria, summing to 82. Now, John Lennon was assassinated on December 8th, or 1208. And one of the only people to be assassinated in America who was more famous than John Lennon was John F. Kennedy, whose name sums to 1208 in Latin Gematria. This cipher, also called Agrippa's key, is what I actually consider to be the most significant method of this study. So John F. Kennedy equals 1208, just like the day that Lennon was shot. And how about the fact that Rodgers used to wear number 12 for Green Bay, but then switched to number 8 for the New York Jets? Recently, I've been talking about Aaron Rodgers. If you saw my last super stream on the death of Jimmy Buffett, you saw that Rodgers was 39 years and 39 weeks old when Jimmy Buffett died. New York, NY, NYC, and Empire, all 39 in Gematria. Now, the reason I made this connection is because on the same day that Jimmy Buffett died, 250 days after his own birthday, Aaron Judge became the MLB's fastest player to 250 home runs. And think about how Aaron Judge is a league MVP who plays in New York City. Aaron Rodgers, now another league MVP, another Aaron in New York City. Aaron Judge was born on April 26th, and when he broke the record, hitting his 250th home run, he did so on a 426 home run. Again, his birthday, April 26th, or 426. 426 was also the date that Aaron Rodgers was officially traded to the New York Jets, finalized on April 26th. Earlier this season, Aaron Judge had a teammate named Josh Donaldson, who was waived by the Yankees after some poor performances and injuries. Well, on the exact same day that Aaron Rodgers was lost for the season, Josh Donaldson debuted for the Brewers, the baseball team from Wisconsin, where Rodgers used to play in Green Bay. And in his second game, Josh Donaldson also hit a 426-foot home run. Using the alphabetic order, Josh Donaldson has the same 150 value with Jimmy Buffett and Green Bay Packers. Who is writing this script? So let's talk more about the number 426. Using prime numbers, Aaron Rodgers equals 426. And in Latin, torn Achilles 426. He suffered a torn Achilles against the Buffalo Bills, which equals 426. This is also the Latin value of Yale University. Yale equals 426. And for those of you who have been following my work, Yale has been a primary topic of almost every video, as Yale, which is home to the Order 322, Skull and Bones. The school turns 322 years old in 2023, and in ordinals, Skull and Crossbones equals 223. Now, I also talked about Rodgers in my recent video on the death of Gil Brandt and Julian Papinga. Now, Gil Brandt was born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and was a vice president for the Dallas Cowboys. Aaron Rodgers' old coach, Mike McCarthy, now coaches for the Cowboys. McCarthy and Rodgers won a Super Bowl together, Super Bowl 45, with help from defensive linebacker Brady Papinga. And just last week, we learned about the death of Julian Papinga, Brady's son. Now, Brady Papinga went to Brigham Young University, whose logo is a blue and white Y, very similar to the logo of Yale University. And after Aaron Rodgers got injured, he was replaced by Zach Wilson, who was a graduate of Brigham Young University, just like Brady Papinga. All right, so let's get into this. Now, this isn't the first time that Aaron Rodgers has been injured by the numbers. In standard English Gematria, the name Aaron Rodgers has a value of 558. And twice in his career, 2013 and 2017, he missed significant chunks of time due to a broken collarbone. And broken collarbone also has this 558 value. Again, we'll also talk about Tom Brady and Drew Bledsoe. Remember, we just mentioned it was Brady Papinga, Rodgers' old teammate who lost a son last week. Tom Brady was born 1,997 days after Drew Bledsoe, and he replaced Bledsoe just a week after the attacks on New York City. New York City sums to 1997 in Latin. So let's talk about these 9/11 riddles, as Aaron Rodgers was injured on September 11th. Now, the date 9/11 flipped upside down gives us the digits 116. Aaron Rodgers was born on a date with primary numerology of 116 and was traded to the Jets from the Packers, which sums to 116. as the Packers now have a new quarterback named Jordan Love, whose name sums to 116. After Aaron Rodgers got injured, Zach Wilson entered the game. Notice how Zach Wilson has the same August 3rd birthday as Tom Brady, who came in to replace Drew Bledsoe. More on this shortly. Well, not only does the name Wilson equal 1109 in Latin, but his full name equals 911 in Satanic Gematria. These are the same values in the same ciphers as Francisco Azpilicueta, which is the real name of Saint Francis Xavier. Francisco Azpilicueta sums to 1190 and 911. The name Francis also sums to 119. And again, this was the second time a Jets quarterback tore his Achilles in Week 1, with the first being Vinny Testaverde, whose name sums to 119. If you multiply 11 times 9, you get a product of 99. This is the ordinal value of Achilles' heel. And Vinny Testaverde was born 99 months before Drew Bledsoe, who was injured against the Jets. This next one is pretty wild. The name Testaverde has gematria of 47 using the S exception. Now, when you write out 47, it has a gematria value of 1616. Remember, the Freemasons set the compass to 47 degrees. Freemasonry has the G very similar to the Packers logo. But we're going to talk about this 1616. This is so significant to what happened. The game where Rodgers went down ended regulation with a tie score, 16-16. This game was played exactly 106 years, 106 days after the birth of John F. Kennedy. Now, John F. Kennedy, born on May 29th, which is the same date in history that Wisconsin was admitted to the Union, where Rodgers used to play. Aaron Rodgers was born 16,116 days after Kennedy's assassin, Lee Harvey Oswald. Xavier Gipson, who won the game for the Jets, was born 10,616 days after Drew Bledsoe. Vinny Testaverde, who also tore his Achilles, was born on a date with 106 numerology. And look at how Vinny Testaverde is even listed at 106 kilograms. Achilles is a Greek god, mythological character, and in Greek gematria, the name Achilles equals 106. When Drew Bledsoe got hurt against the Jets, it was exactly 106 weeks after Vinny Testaverde tore his Achilles. And now we get a winning punt return by a man named Gibson, whose name sums to 106. And remember how this is all about Yale, 223 and 322. Well, both of these numbers, when you spell them out in reduction, have a gematria value of 106. Not only was this game played on a date with 16 numerology, but it also fell 16 days before the anniversary of the Jesuit order. The Jesuit order are famously known as the Jesuits. And notice how the Jesuits sums to 136, which is the 16th triangular number. You add every number 1 through 16, 136. When Rodgers hit the turf, there were 11 minutes and 35 seconds on the clock. And this stood out right away because Aaron Rodgers has gematria of 135 in ordinal. Achilles' heel, 1350 in reverse Sumerian. And this was during a Jets-Bills game. Jets-Bills equals 135. But notice how Jets-Bills equals 63 in reverse reduction. And this is a huge number to what played out on the field, 63. First, consider how Vinny Testaverde, the last Jet to tear his Achilles, was born in the year 63. In fact, he was born just 10 days before the assassination of John F. Kennedy. Well, 9 days, but a span of 10 days. Both of them born in 63. Aaron Rodgers was born 6 months and 3 days after JFK's birthday. He tore his Achilles on a date with primary numerology of 63, 9 plus 11 plus 20 plus 23. Not only does Aaron Rodgers sum to 63, but Achilles' heel has double Gematria of 63. And this happened against Buffalo, which equals 63. He even tore his Achilles 63 days before Vinny Testaverde's birthday. In fact, Vinny Testaverde, if I'm not mistaken, also tore his Achilles 63 days before his birthday with the end date. The Monday Night Football game was played exactly 6 years and 3 weeks after the first Great American Total Solar Eclipse. And the man who won the game for the Jets, Xavier Gipson, was born 6 months and 3 days before the 9/11 attacks, which means he was also 6 months, 3 days after his birthday for this game. A significant number to the NFL is 22. And think about how there's 22 players on the field for any given NFL play. The invention of American football is often credited to a man named Walter Camp. And are you surprised that Walter Camp graduated from Yale University, where he was a member of the Skull and Bones secret society? So, the sport of football, literally invented by Skull and Bones. In the alphabetic order, National Football League equals 220. The Skull and Bones Society is also known as the Brotherhood of Death, which sums to 220 as well. In fact, in reverse, Skull and Bones equals 202, the same digits. The phrase total solar eclipse equals 202, and we will take a deep dive into the eclipse code. Of course, skull and crossbones, like the crossed eclipses over the U.S. Tom Brady was born exactly 22 years before Zach Wilson. These are the two men who replaced the injured quarterbacks. Aaron Rodgers got injured exactly 22 years after the September 11th attacks. The name Aaron sums to 22 and 202. The name Vinny Testaverde also equals 202. And if you measure from Vinny Testaverde's birthday to Aaron Rodgers, you get 20 years and 20 days. Rodgers injured 2 weeks and 2 days before the Jesuit anniversary, which was founded by Francis Xavier, whose name sums to 202. The name Xavier also has matching gematria with skull and crossbones. And as it turns out, Aaron Rodgers is heavily coated with this skull and bones numerology. Last year, Aaron Rodgers revealed a new tattoo which exhibited a ton of occultic knowledge, from astrology to, the equinoxes. But what's so significant about this is that he did this on July 6th of 2022. The date written 7/6 on the calendar. In Gematria, skull and bones equals 76th. And it just so happens that this date, July 6th, was the 76th birthday of George W. Bush, who was born in New Haven, Connecticut, the home of Yale University. And just like his father, George W. Bush, also a member of the Skull and Bones secret society. Now, the name George kind of reminds us of Georgia. And on this exact same day when Rodgers revealed this tattoo, the Georgia Guidestones were destroyed. So Bush turns 76 years old on that date. And think about how Aaron Rodgers was born exactly a span of 76 months after Tom Brady. And if you saw my last Super Stream, I talked about Tom Brady with the Skull and Bones code. This explains why he played for the Skull and Bones team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, the man who blew the block on the offensive line that led to the Rodgers sack causing his injury, he even wore number 76, Dwayne Brown of the New York Jets. And check out the name Dwayne Brown. It's got that special 322 in Latin. Quarterback Zach Wilson, who replaced Rodgers a la Brady replacing Bledsoe. This guy's got a boatload of Skull and Bones connections. First of all, Zach Wilson equals Skull and Bones in Gematria. And look how old Zach Wilson was on 9/11. Exactly 110 weeks old. Well, the World Trade Center was 110 stories tall with a 110-meter antenna, destroyed on the 11th in the 11th state. They were built by Rockefeller, destroyed by Osama bin Laden on 9/11, all of these with 110 Gematria. This is also 770 days, and both World Trade Center and September 11th equals 77. Zach Wilson was 8,805 days old when he replaced Aaron Rodgers on Monday Night Football. 885 is the Latin value of skull and crossbones. 885. On the date of the 9/11 attacks, Tom Brady was this exact same age, 8,805 days. And he replaced Drew Bledsoe, and Drew Bledsoe has matching gematria with both World Trade Center and Twin Towers. Again, I ask, who on earth is writing this script? I think it's computers. I think it's easy to see that. Now, I want to dive a little bit deeper into the JFK riddle that's running in this code, in this long algorithm here that we're looking at. Aaron Rodgers has now played for two green teams in the NFL. And check out how the color green has matching gematria with Aaron, with Rodgers, and with the number 8. This all lines up very, very well. So we went from number 12 to 8. John F. Kennedy, 1208 in gematria. And as mentioned earlier, this was another date significant to another John. John Lennon shot and killed on the 8th of December, 1208. Rodgers was injured on a tackle by Leonard Floyd. Leonard Floyd was born on a date with primary numerology of 128. Skull and Bones is called the Brotherhood. Brotherhood equals 128. And we'll also be getting into the Eclipse code. And December 8th is the Gregorian date for the 1331 eclipse, which is the most significant eclipse in history, the eclipse that this entire code is based on. It happened on December 8th on the Gregorian calendar. On the date Rodgers went down, he was a span of 14,529 days old. And I talked about this number earlier. 529 is the birthday of JFK and the admission date of Wisconsin. The 29th of May can also be written 29/5. In the alphabetic order, 295 is the value of the numbers 223 and 322. Also, Skull and Bones with capital letters, 295. So he gets sacked by Leonard Floyd, leading to this injury. In gematria, Leonard Floyd is a supermatch with John F. Kennedy. John F. Kennedy was born in the year 1917. And the names Leonard Cornelius Floyd and John Fitzgerald Kennedy both have gematria of 109 and 107. Floyd's number 56 also connects to Skull and Crossbones, World Trade Center, Francisco Azpilicueta. All of these sum to the 56th prime number. And this will make sense because as we get into this eclipse code, right, when the moon covers the sun, the name Floyd comes from the name Lloyd, which means gray-haired. And of course, the moon is gray. Moon is a supermatch with gray in Gematria. There's a lot of interesting things about Leonard Floyd's age and his Gematria. Notice his age on 9/11. It syncs up with Francis Xavier or Francis Azpilicueta. These are also the same numbers when you measure from his birthday to Zach Wilson's birthday. Leonard Cornelis Floyd in Gematria sums to 98. And that's interesting because he was born on September 8th, or 9/8. 3.14 equals 98. So does the Society of Jesus. And 3.14 are the first three digits of pi. And the Jesuits' emblem is a circular eclipsed sun. Azpilicueta also 908. And there's a huge pi riddle with Floyd. I'll revisit this towards the end of the video, but we'll talk about how the numerology of the circle and pi is all tied into this as well. But before we do, I want to talk about how this all connects to the two great American total solar eclipses over the United States. Skull and Bones and Yale University are completely coded with these two eclipses that stamp an X on the United States. These two eclipses are separated by exactly 82 lunar phases. Now, a lunar phase is about 29.5 days. However, we also have something called a sidereal month, which measures the lunar orbit in relation to the stars. Notice how Yale University turns 322 years old, exactly 82 sidereal months after that first eclipse. This is no mistake, ladies and gentlemen. This is exactly what the occult is doing to stamp their signatures on the universities in our nation. So let's talk about how this all connects to these eclipses. What's so interesting is that the word Achilles has a lot of gematria match with the word eclipse, including the number 303. Now, Rodgers tore his Achilles 303 days after Vinny Testaverde's birthday. And Vinny was also 303 days after his birthday when he tore his Achilles. This 33 is a number that's connected to the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, which sums to 303, just like Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. In the New Testament, we're told that Jesus was sent to save the world in John 3:16, one of the most famous Bible verses there are. Appropriately, Jesus sums to 316 in Hebrew Gematria. In Latin, the name Rodgers equals 316. And notice how Rodgers got hurt exactly 316 weeks after the first Great American Eclipse. Drew Bledsoe was born 3,016 days after Vinny Testaverde. In fact, Zach Wilson was born 30,016 days after JFK. And think about how this ties into the name of the man who won the game. Xavier Gibson returns a punt for a touchdown. His name equals 316. If you measure from Rodgers' torn Achilles to the second Great American Eclipse, which occurs in 2024, you get a span of 211 days. In our other capital letter cipher, the name Xavier Gibson sums to 211. These capital letter ciphers, both based in the alphabetic order, either adding 26 for each capital letter or mixing them in with the small letters. Francisco Azpilicueta, the real name of Francis Xavier, also sums to 211. This is the same gematria as ritual human sacrifice. 211 in the alphabetic order. Now, in another very significant cipher called Satanic Gematria, this cipher constructed completely around the number 666. The phrase ritual human sacrifice equals 911. And again, this is the date that this all went down. 9/11, September 11th. 9/11 is a prime number, divisible only by 1 and itself. And we see here that 9/11 is the 156th prime number. In Latin gematria, Achilles sums to 156. Francis Xavier was born in the year 1506. If you measure from the birthday of Aaron Rodgers to the birthday of Leonard Floyd, who injured him, you get 105 months and 6 days. This was also another number with Drew Bledsoe, whose birthday falls 156 days after 9/11. Now, 156 is a paramount number to the Eclipse code. In Hebrew, eclipse equals 156, and eclipses always occur 1, 5, or 6 lunar phases apart. In gematria, eclipse the sun equals 156. So does New York, New York. The number 33 equals 156. And think about how the World Trade Center was destroyed 33 years after construction began. And with capital letters, Twin Towers equals 330. Last year, the Packers played the Jets on October 16th, which is a date with an upside-down 9/11 on it. And if you measure from that game, October 16th of 2022, to Rodgers' injury, you get 330 days. The 330th prime number is 2213. And Rodgers was injured 2,213 days after the first Great American Eclipse. Drew Bledsoe was 330 months old when Testaverde got hurt. Tom Brady also born 330 weeks before Aaron Rodgers. So numbers that connect all of these quarterbacks just repeatedly being stamped in. There's this intriguing rule in Freemasonry where the number 1 can be added or subtracted to any gematria value. And I actually hate this rule because, you know, people say I'm playing with numbers even though I'm using the same ciphers in every single video. But sometimes I do point this out. And check out the gematria of torn Achilles tendon. 665, which is just one off of 666. And this is another huge number. Earlier we talked about Brett Favre and how the name Favre connects to Peter Favre, a founder of the Jesuit order. Well, isn't it interesting that Brett Favre, whose name sums to 999, is currently 666 lunar phases old? In Sumerian gematria, which is the alphabetic order times 6, New York equals 666. New York, New York also has matching gematria with 666. And New York City, New York sums to an upside-down 666. In the magic square of the sun, all the individual squares sum to 666. And Jesus, the Son of God, has matching gematria with 666. On the date that Rodgers was injured, he was 2,075 weeks old, which is the ordinal value of 666 and Latin sum of Jesus Christ. He was also 283 days after his birthday. And when you write out 666, it sums to 2,083 and 122. Well, Aaron Rodgers was born on 12/2, which is the date written 122. Rodgers' full name also has matching gematria with 666, 201, and 312. Remember, this 312 is also Chicago's dialing code. And Rodgers owns the Bears. So as we pointed out, there's 82 lunar phases exactly between these two great American eclipses. There's also 6 years, 6 months, 6 weeks, and 6 days, and 82 is the first number to sum to 666 in Gematria. Well, Aaron Rodgers tore his Achilles tendon 82 days before his next birthday. 82 is the primary numerology of the date that Francis Xavier died back in 1552. And notice how Francis Xavier died on 312, 312, which is the gematria that Aaron Rodgers shares with 666 and Chicago's area code. Well, the game was won on a punt return by Xavier Gipson. And not only does the name Gibson sum to 82 in reverse, but Gibson even wears number 82 for the Jets. And on this date of the game, he was 8,222 days old. Xavier Gipson was born on March 8th of 2001. Of course, the same year as the 9/11 attacks. And what this means is that on the date of the game, he was also 270 months old. And this is another number that we need to talk about in connection with the Jesuits. The Jesuit motto is "for the greater glory of God." And in Gematria, "for the greater glory of God" sums to 270. Using triangular numbers, Society of Jesus sums to the 270th prime number. And the Jesuits celebrate their anniversary on September 27th, which is the 270th day of the year. We currently have the first ever Jesuit Pope, and that's Pope Francis, the first to come from the Jesuit order. And man, he's starting to look pretty old, hey? Doesn't he look like that child lover guy from Family Guy? The old man who really likes Chris? He's starting to kind of remind me of that, isn't he? But anyway, Pope Francis is from Argentina. And Argentina is home to the biggest soccer star in the world, Lionel Messi. And I just want to point out that Leo Messi was born on the 270th anniversary of Freemasonry. 270 years exactly after modern Freemasonry. Modern Freemasonry founded on June 24th of 1717. Lionel Messi also born on June 24th. So just strong Jesuit connections that spread across all sports, as we continuously see over and over again. Now, another thing I want to make sure I talk about before I finish this video is the final score of the game, 22-16. This actually blew my mind because just a couple of weeks ago, I did this post talking about the date September 14th, the Skull and Bones date, and how remarkably significant this day seems to be. I really expect something big to happen tomorrow. I have no idea what it's going to be. It seems to be connected to the presidential race and this ongoing moon riddle. I just don't know. And I usually never say this, but it does seem like things line up for this date really, really well. September 14th falls 2,216 days after the first Great American Total Solar Eclipse. And this was a number that's been coded into significant news stories for a couple years now. And it all ties back to the gematria of Revelation 22:16. In this Bible verse, it talks about the bright and morning star. And in astronomy, the morning star is the planet Venus. And notice how planet Venus has the same gematria as Skull and Bones. Also, morning star with the same numbers. 148, 149, all syncing up. Morning star, planet Venus, and Skull and Bones. Now, this is important because Skull and Bones, their anniversary, or Yale's anniversary, is on October 9th. Skull and Bones doesn't have an anniversary, just a founding year. October 9th falls during the time of Libra on the zodiac. And Libra is ruled by the planet Venus, the morning star. So there's something strong with this riddle here. The name Xavier Gibson also sums to 1409, the guy who won the game, who made the score 22-16. This is the 223rd primary connecting back to Skull and Crossbones. Sorry, prime number. And look at the gematria that Aaron Rodgers shares with Venus. Venus has all this matching gematria with Aaron Rodgers and his full name. The name Aaron has the same Latin gematria as the guy who injured him, Leonard Floyd, 172 and 1172. And look how old JFK would have been for this game. He would have been 172 Venusian years and 172 days old. And for those who are trying to figure out what this is all about, for enthusiastic members and up on my website, you have access to the planetary calculator. And if you run JFK's age on the date Aaron Rodgers was injured, you can see he was 172 Venusian years and 172 days old. The only quarterback to ever win a Super Bowl for the Jets was Joe Namath, and notice how his full and common names sum to 1172 and 172. Kobe Bryant was 172 mercurial years old when he died, completely by the numbers of Mercury. And I point this out because Kobe was born on 8/23. And Rodgers got hurt 8,023 days after Drew Bledsoe's injury. And Favre went to the Jets in 08, and now Rodgers goes to the Jets in 23, 8/23. Of course, these all connect to 666. Here you have the digits 283. 666, 2083. Now, 2083 is the 314th prime number. And we talked a lot about how this was all part of this big pi riddle, right? Well, first, let's finish this Venus code, because this connects back to Lee Harvey Oswald, who killed JFK. Notice how the name Lee Harvey Oswald has gematria of 1939, and Oswald was born in the year 1939. When he died, he was 39 Venusian years and 39 days old. Oswald was born on October 18th, making him a Libra. Again, the ruling planet is Venus. This 39 years and 39 days on Venus, Zach Wilson was that same age just 2 days before he took over for Aaron Rodgers. It was also 39 Venusian years since Vinny Testaverde tore his Achilles. Remember Aaron Rodgers, 39 years and 39 weeks old when Jimmy Buffett died. There's some more, but let's jump back to this pi riddle, right? And this is all evident through Leonard Floyd. And you have to appreciate that Leonard Floyd used to play for the Bears, the team he was drafted by. And I kicked this video off talking about how Aaron Rodgers is super synced up with the Bears. So there's 360 degrees in a circle. Leonard Floyd was born exactly 360 weeks before backup Zach Wilson. In the alphabetic order, 360 sums to 227. And Leonard Floyd was born 20 years and 207 days after Drew Bledsoe. Well, 227 is a huge number to the circle code. Alt 227 on a Windows keyboard gives you the pi symbol. And in the alphabetic order, 22 divided by 7 has an ordinal value of 314. And on a calculator, 22 divided by 7 gives you 3.14. On the date he injured Aaron Rodgers, Leonard Floyd was a span of 31 years and 4 days old. Floyd was also born 3,104 days before Xavier Gibson, the man who won the game. I also found some pretty strong alignments with JFK to Tom Brady. Brady was born 3,140 weeks, or 722 months after JFK. JFK was also born 60 years and 66 days before Tom Brady. Now, this is also 60 years and 67 days with the end date, and the name Tom Brady sums to 667 in Latin Gematria. And then you measure from Kennedy's birth to Aaron Rodgers' birthday, and you get 66 years and 6 months. Kennedy summing to 666. Mathematics of the circle, mathematical perfection, 666. Of course, there's more that I either glossed over or missed, but, I made 5 posts on this injury. And this is huge. They got Jets fans all up in a tizzy for months and months, letting them into the locker room, into the training room, letting them see the growth of the team. Everyone's super excited, and then, boom, Rodgers goes down right away. Again, all in accordance with the script. But, Jets fans, don't go away already. Zach Wilson synced up very well with Tom Brady. And remember, Tom Brady unexpectedly took the team to a Super Bowl. Now, I have no idea if that's going to happen or anything, but it does seem like there's going to be some hope. I would be more likely to expect the Jets to lose in heartbreaking fashion at the end of the season, missing the playoffs, but you never really know exactly how these things pan out. But no doubt, all scripted, all by the numbers. All right, everyone. That'll do it for this video. As always, feel free to check the links in the description down below if you want more information. If you'd like to support the work, you can do so by going to the memberships page, where you'll also gain additional tools and access to the website. Or drop me a line at PayPal. Anything is appreciated. It keeps this work going. It gives me the time to put this all together and present it for you guys. As, I would love to be the premier Gematria channel. There's a lot of people doing it. There's a lot of people doing great work, God's work. But like I said, I think I have a different way of putting things together that is unique to the community. With that being said, I'm out of here. Peace, love, God bless, and we'll talk to you next time. See ya.